Hi, I'm Ebony, and welcome to Motivation to Write, a show where I talk to the experts ranging from psychologists to entrepreneurs to coaches who offer their knowledge and advice to help writers like you and me step into our full potential. Today we have marketing expert and entrepreneur Vicky Wu, who's going to talk to us about marketing our blogs and how creativity and authenticity should be playing a role in our marketing strategy. Before we get to Vicky, let's catch up. I'm excited because my 7-day affirmation challenge starts on November 8th. That's almost 1 week away. Signups are going to begin on Sunday, November 1st. Go to zezo.com for more information and to sign up. That's my 7-day affirmation challenge where we take 7 days to transform our negative thinking into positive thinking so that we can step into our power as writers. Now, let's meet Vicky Wu. Vicky Wu has been working in marketing and advertising for over 30 years. She's worked with top-level organizations like Nokia, Southwest Airlines, and the Dallas Cowboys. After a life-changing trip to Paris in 2015, Vicky decided to step down from her 80-hour-a-week job as CMO and begin her own business, Vicky Wu Marketing, which helps entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Hi, Vicky.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I was looking at your website and you have a really interesting story that it's kind of about how you got into marketing and has to do with Paris. Pretty scary story, right? I was just wondering if maybe you could kind of tell us a little bit about that.
And I had been doing marketing for a long time up to that point, working in corporate America. And I was working 80-hour weeks. My husband, knowing that we needed to get away and he loves to travel, he took me to Paris. And even there, I was still working about 40 hours a week while on vacation. But luckily he dragged me away or we wouldn't have done it.
Right.
On our last evening there was one particular restaurant that he wanted to visit before we left. And so we went to it. It was later than I normally like to eat dinner. I remember at some point, all of the waiters disappeared, which they tend to do that in Paris a little bit anyway, but it was noticeable. And this restaurant was really huge on their customer service. So it was not the normal wait staff like you would expect to find in France, where they kind of just leave you alone and until you wave them over. This one was really hands-on and they all kind of disappeared for a second, but we were having a good time talking to the people around us. My phone completely died and I'm like, I'm not even going to worry about it. It's our last night in Paris. It's okay that it died. And we walk out of the restaurant and it was really eerie. The streets were empty, which does not happen in Paris, at least that early. It was maybe 10 p.m., 9:30, 10 p.m. by that time. And we go around the corner. We had parked on the next street over and come across some people kind of standing there chatting and they like went silent as soon as they saw us. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. I mean, they could have kept talking to themselves, to each other.
Right.
We get in the car and we're driving down the road towards our hotel that night. We had moved that last night to be closer to the airport. And so I plugged my phone in to charge. And it boots up and I see a text message from a coworker and all it says is, "Are you okay?" And she's back in the US. And I turned to my husband and I said, something happened, but at that point we still didn't know what. So I start getting on, I'm trying to think what news site can I get to. So I'm looking at CNN and all these, and they start talking about the terrorist attack. So that night we're watching all of the news, and luckily my husband had been caught in the volcano that erupted, the one from Iceland that had erupted back in like 2010. And so he knew some of the things we needed to put in place, keep the rental car, extend the hotel stay in case. While I'm watching the news and they're showing more and more of the attacks where they were happening. And there was one restaurant And that was one of the places, if you saw on the news, they had a clip of a video, a security camera in one of the little restaurants pointing outside, and you see one of the gunmen go by, and he aims his gun to shoot it at a woman that was sitting out there, and she's cowering, ducking under the little cafe table.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
And his gun jams. And he tries again, the gun's jammed. He looks at it and he just walks off down the street. We were the next restaurant that he would have come upon when he walked off that direction.
Oh, my goodness.
Obviously we weren't there in the Bataclan Theater, although we had been over in that area the day before. We weren't, we didn't directly have a gun pointed at us, but it was still surreal, and it was frightening. Of course, we're at the airport. I'm thinking, if there's another big target, it's going to be the airport, and we're right there at the airport. But luckily it wasn't worse than it ended up being. We had our flight canceled a couple times, got back the next day when they resumed flights, and was kind of never so glad to touch down on U.S. soil. Yet also part of me was still back in Paris with the tragedy that had unfolded. So,
of course, yeah.
Long story short, I was looking at the stress I was under from 80-hour weeks, and in the fact that this vacation that I still worked during, and I could have died easily if not for, thank God for a jammed gun. And I was kind of like, what am I doing? I'm killing myself to make someone else rich. Great people, I still love them, but still, I'm like, I can't do that anymore. I have to take that workload primarily and what I want to do with my life and my relationships with my family that I was kind of putting on the back burner. Right. I'm like, I've got to take that into my own hands. And so my husband and I talked about it for a bit, and eventually I did go in and give my resignation. I stayed on 6 months while they found and we trained my replacement. I was a CMO, so at that level, it's a little bit harder if you're just like, nope, I almost died, I'm out of here. Right, so what I hope for anyone who's watching or listening is that it doesn't take something so drastic for them to make whatever change they need to make in their life. So if you're feeling it in your gut, don't wait. Life is too short.
Do you feel that that happened specifically to get you moving? Or do you feel like that was just a huge shout from the heavens, like, you need to make a change?
I think I hadn't been listening when it was like, hey, you need to stop working so hard. Yeah. And I kept putting it off. I love marketing. So I was enjoying what I was doing, but I hadn't been listening. And so I think the universe kind of had to, slap me upside the head a little bit and make sure I was in a place where something happened that I had to listen to and I couldn't ignore.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in a position that you were in, very similar position, I think, as you said, where they are stuck, or they feel stuck in a job that's just consuming all their time and all their energy, and they know that they need to make a move to something else, but for whatever reason, I think it's fear. They're not, they're not taking that step. But you had, it's weird to say this, but you had that experience, which in some way was quite fortunate because it did get you to this next point in your life. So did you start your own company? Is that what you did, or what happened?
Yes, I left and I had some of that fear as well, especially having been a single mom until I got remarried. But even then, my kids were grown by that time. You always have that fear of, I won't be able to make enough money.
Right.
I've got to support my family. And that fear went away. I'm like, I know for a fact, with the skills I have after all the, decades of marketing I've been doing, I know for a fact I can sell enough services to at least get by at the minimum, the bare bones of what bills I'm required to pay. I can do that. And I wasn't wanting to delve right back into 80-hour weeks. Usually when you're an entrepreneur, you have to work really hard. People think, oh, I'll work 4 hours a week and, make money. It's not like that. And I knew that. I had been an entrepreneur before. So I went into it knowing that I didn't want to work even 40 hours a week at first while life stabilized. And I didn't have a plan B. Sometimes that's a good thing. You have to go all in. So I resigned. I did take that 6 months to do things like set up my website, some of those basic things that weren't me actively getting clients on board. But other than that, it was on my last day there, that was it. I had to go out and hustle and find enough money to support me while I took time to heal until I felt ready to go back at it hard and heavy, 40 hours, 60 hours a week, like most entrepreneurs do.
Right. But that was a big dip, the 80 hours, right? Because before you're doing 80, which, oh my gosh, I can't
I had to retrain my brain. It was, it was hard to do. It took me probably 20 months to kind of retrain my brain that you don't have to be working 80 hours a week, Vicky. It's okay. No guilt.
Wow.
You don't have to.
So the company you started, your own marketing company, how do you service people? What do you do for people?
I focus now primarily on entrepreneurs, and it's a little bit different. I was in the corporate world, some big name brands that you would recognize. I had been doing their marketing, and what I saw was that, they have an almost unlimited budget. They have a ton of people on their staff. One of them, when I was going in consulting and I'm walking around their marketing department, and there's like 5 people with the same job title. So I'm like, entrepreneurs don't have that luxury. They have to be scrappy. They have to do it themselves. So I made the choice to take the best practices from those big guys and then boil it down into simple strategies that entrepreneurs could repurpose and use themselves. So primarily I focus on entrepreneurs, and we are a full service agency between myself and the experience I have, and then my team of independent contractors have some of their specializations. So we do take larger clients, such as small businesses that are kind of to the point where they don't quite need a full-time marketing person or marketing department. And we'll take that over. And so it uses a lot more of our services. For entrepreneurs, we offer both do-it-yourself and done-for-you programs, primarily centered around digital marketing, anything of their online presence. That's where most entrepreneurs are focused and where they need help. So website, SEO, social media, email marketing, those types of things are what we focus on for the entrepreneurs.
Right. So I was talking to an entrepreneur a few days ago, and he mentioned, bloggers are also a type of entrepreneur. I mean, they're really starting a new venture. They're selling something, even if it's their stories. And even though they might not be exchanging it for money, I didn't even think about that. My audience is primarily bloggers, beginning bloggers like myself, who want to gain a wider readership. They want more followers. They even want to monetize. So when we talk about marketing, I'm just going to include myself. We really don't know what platforms should we be investing most of our time in, as far as social media. Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it Twitter? Or should we be primarily focused on the email marketing? What are your thoughts?
All right, good question. For somebody doing a blog, especially if you're wanting to monetize it, it's all about traffic to the blog.
Right.
So anything that will direct traffic back there. So even when you're using social media or email, you want to only give them enough of the blog article and then link back to get traffic driven to the website. One thing I always recommend for all entrepreneurs, whether they're bloggers or any other venture, is two things when you're trying to choose where do I kind of start that marketing piece first. The first one is whatever platform you already use, because you're already on it. So if you use Facebook, start there. If you use Instagram, start there. By being already on and using the platform regularly, you'll kind of have a better feel for it anyway. And it won't add a lot of extra time to your day, because you can just sneak that piece in while you're using it for your personal use as well. Right. The second piece to add is the platform where your customers are, your readers, your clients, your prospects. So if they're not on that same platform that you're on, you need to find out which one they use and focus your second set of efforts on that one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I was talking to another marketer a few days ago, and she asked me how old, because I'm a writing coach. And she said, okay, so what age, what's the age range of your clients? And I was like, oh. And I didn't realize how important that is, because as you mentioned, if my target age is on Facebook, and I'm investing so much time in like Instagram
or TikTok,
right? It's kind of a waste of my time. So how do we find out that information? Like, what do you say to someone who doesn't even quite know specific things about their market, such as age or maybe even gender or whatever? How do they go about figuring that out?
One of the easiest things you can do if you're on Facebook and you have a business page, it will tell you a lot of those things about your audience. The percentage of people that are liking your page that are male or female, their different age groups, even their geographic location. If you don't have access to that kind of pre-formatted data, just ask. Do a survey, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Use a Google form and do a survey. Do you need to give them an incentive to do it? Tie a gift card, a Starbucks card that you'll draw all the participants, or if it's a blog around a specific niche, use a gift card to that or a product to that. Do something to incentivize them and just ask them, hey, tell me, your gender, tell me your age range. That can also be a great way to gather a little bit of extra data on what kind of blog articles they want to see. Sneak that question in there too. And which platform they use most often. Ask them right there in the survey. Pick the one you use most often, and you'll get some really good insight just simply by asking the audience that you already have. The other thing is to also consider who you want the audience to be. I know I've worked with some clients that their service or product was really geared towards older, maybe not old, but like 35 to 55. It wasn't for people over 55 really, and it wasn't for people under 35. Sometimes that would happen, but you don't want to waste your time on the people that aren't right for what you do. Right. Sometimes you may need to think, the audience I currently have isn't quite it, and you may need to go in and say, I need to strategically write things that do attract the audience that I'm going after.
Mm-hmm. And I think so. That's interesting, because when you say strategically write things, I think that's where people kind of get stuck. It feels like maybe it's like a hit or miss sometimes, or you just have to try out different things. So for example, you write something and doesn't get that much attention. So now you got to write something else and see if it's testing, is what I'm trying to say, right? It's going to take a lot of
testing is good. It does narrow that testing window down if you have a pretty good understanding of your audience. Mm-hmm. One of the easiest ways that I gather some topics, one is through questions I get asked. So of course, when I share content. It's about marketing. So people will ask me marketing questions. Another thing I do is some of the groups I'm in on Facebook and LinkedIn, I go in and pay attention to what questions the people are asking and what they're talking about. And I have a Google Doc spreadsheet where I just pop ideas into there. I come across one, I open Google Sheets really quickly and just add it to my list. And then when I'm sitting down to plan my content, and I have a whole secret method I use that I can share with your people, I can either pick a topic that is getting a lot of buzz, or I can sometimes go in and I'll cluster topics. And that way I can do a series without having to come up with a new completely different topic each week. I may do a series in a month, so each blog is part of that series.
You know, I did something similar for when I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with my blog, what service I wanted to offer. And I went into the writing coaching because, number one, I have a background in writing. I'm an English teacher, I have degrees in writing. But I was also looking through Twitter, and sometimes people post questions like, what's the most difficult thing you find about writing? Or what's the most frustrating thing you find about publishing? And then I would just go look at all of their responses, and I would just kind of take notes on what they were saying, because I figured those are pain points that I can address in my writing program. So it does help to pay attention to what people are saying, because those are things they need help with, right? Yeah.
Right. And especially if it's in a group or on Twitter and it's a similar demographic. For example, if you know you only want to, not only, but primarily your target is going to be females, you may not get the same kind of data from a male or the same kind of questions or needs. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the questions within that demographic. If you're looking at what an 18-year-old needs on social media and what a 55-year-old needs on social media, like for marketing, two very different set of questions. Sometimes the older crowd that haven't been on social media, they didn't grow up with it, they have basic questions like, how do I even start a Facebook page? Whereas the 18-year-olds, you know, they've already got 20 different social media accounts, and they maybe need to know how to like start focusing their message. So you've got to, as long as you're looking in the right place, you can get some really good information, and then you don't have to come up with all the topics yourself.
Right. And that's market research, right? When you're looking into what people want or need.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah. So SEO, when people hear that, they just get all kinds of nervous, bad feelings, because it's just overwhelming sometimes. Keywords, how to set up a post so that you mention the keyword so many times, and filling in the different, like, I don't know, metadata stuff on the post. What do we really, if I'm a blogger, what do I really need to understand basically about SEO?
So the best thing is write for humans. If humans use different variations of the keywords, use those different variations. If humans ask a question in a certain way that has to do with the topic, then include that question or an answer framed around that question in your article. That's really the best thing to do after you've taken care of the back-end technical. First of all, to make sure Google can even crawl your website. I've had clients come to me needing help with SEO. They're like, I don't know why I'm not showing up on Google. And it's like, well, this file on your server is blocking the search engines from crawling your site. So take care of those issues. Other than that, just obviously, if you're writing about a certain topic, you want that topic in the headline. You want that topic maybe in some subheadings. So if you just gear it towards the person that will be reading it, you can go a lot further now, and never, ever, ever keyword stuff. Don't take the keyword, bunny rabbit and put it in the article 100 times, unless you're writing a really long article and it's only about bunny rabbits.
Okay, so I was actually going to ask you about that, Vicky, because Usually when, an SEO expert is right, well, in what I've read, writing about XPO, what am I saying, SEO, they'll direct you to like these keyword search sites that cost money to figure out what keywords you should be using on your website, in your article. Do we need those?
I rarely use those. If I have a client that's wanting to optimize for a keyword that is directly related to a product or service they're selling, that's the only time that I probably go in, and especially if they're going to be doing pay-per-click advertising. If you're doing pay-per-click, you need to do that research, because most of those, when you have to pay for the research, will tell you the estimated search volume, the estimated cost per click that you're going to have to pay to get your ad on page one.
Right.
For the rest of us, you just really need to, like I said, think through the variations that someone is going to be using about that topic, and you'll get good results. Now, Google does have a free keyword planner tool that's part of their ads. So if you go to Google AdWords and go ahead and set up an ad account, you don't have to actually create an ad, but you can use their keyword planner, and it will give you some of that data. It will give you some variations of the keyword. They don't always apply to what you're doing. Like, it may have a location and you're not doing that location, but it can, if you're kind of stuck, if you have like a writer's block where keywords are really, you can go in and use one of those. I also like answerthepublic.com. It will let you do 2 free searches a day. And what it does is it takes your keyword, and you're only going to use the short form, 1 to 3 words in a keyword phrase. And when you put that in, it will give you a bunch of variations of questions that people are asking online about that topic. So we went back to the voice search and how people do it like a whole question. And so Answer the Public can give you a few ideas for question-oriented keywords as well.
Can you do that? I'm sorry, Vicky. Can you do that on Google? Like when you search a term, and then it will have common questions that people ask. Is that
another
helpful?
Yes, that's another way that you can do it that can be helpful.
Okay.
One of the things I like to do is take whatever keyword phrase, because I never do just one word. It's always a phrase of 3 to 5 words.
Yeah.
And I like to see what articles are already ranking in the top few spots to see how I can make them better, how my article can be better than theirs, how I can expand upon whatever topic it is, perhaps. So I will do that. I'll put it just flat in Google and see what results come up, and also questions people are asking related to that. That can take you down a little bit of a rabbit hole, because you can keep clicking and keep going. But it can be some helpful information as well. And again, it's all about doing it like your audience, how your audience would say it or ask it or want to read it. If you focus on your audience, that's what Google's doing now, is focusing on the reader, and you can do that too.
As you were telling me about how intuitive Google is becoming, that's what it really sounds like. It's just becoming more intuitive. On the one hand, it's great because it does make our job as writers, that we write on, people who write online anyways, it makes our job a little easier if we don't have to do all these extensive keyword searches and so. But at the same time, it's kind of scary that Google is accumulating so much information about our every little move on the internet. I mean, it's kind of sending shivers down my spine. Goodness.
They're all gathering information from everything. All the social media is, the home assistants that I won't say the name because she'll answer me.
Right, me too, yeah.
They're all gathering data, and the great thing is nowhere in the history of marketing and advertising have we had access to this kind of data and been able to fine tune our message so well.
Yeah. It's it has its good points. It also has its dangerous points.
I'll see an ad now on Facebook or on Google, and I'll be, it'll be like something, ankylosing spondylitis. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I get ads for that now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, do they think I have it? Does Google know more than me? Does Facebook know more than me? No, it's just because I heard the term on the news one day and I didn't know what it was, so I searched it trying to kind of find out.
Gosh.
But now it's almost like, do they know more than I do? I started seeing baby clothes and infant, newborn ads from Amazon come through, and I'm like, does Amazon know more than I do? I mean, it's not mine. I know that. I was like, does Amazon know more than I do? And then I messaged my kids and I'm like, okay, which wife is pregnant? And one was.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So, wow, that is something. I mean, I don't want to get off topic, but I just have to, because you mentioned Amazon. And when I told my brother that I have a few Alexas in my home, he's like, why? Now you have all these spies in your house. Why did you do that? And it's, it's kind of scary because, of course, I think they have on their terms of privacy, or you could request that they not be taking snippets of your voice. But yeah, they could be listening very closely to what I'm saying.
They're going to be really bored if they listen to me.
Yeah, I know. I told them, I live by myself. Like, I'm not really talking out loud to people or anything. But okay, so Vicky, I noticed on your site that you use a lot of video, and I feel like video is a very important and effective marketing tool today. I see it a lot on like Twitter. I actually just started a Facebook page for I haven't been on Facebook since 2012. So actually I started building a new Facebook page, but I noticed, and just looking at other people's pages, now on their, you know how you have I don't know if it's a cover picture or some of them have video footage there. And it's just, yeah, it's really big. And I noticed you use it. I feel like a lot of people, however, especially beginning bloggers and writers, don't feel comfortable on video. Scared of, speaking in public in front of people. How important is video in marketing?
It has been important for many years. It was just taking some of the businesses, smaller businesses, a while to catch on to that. But YouTube is the second largest search engine after Google. So especially for those that are trying to monetize, whether it's selling products or services, monetize their blog, which means getting more traffic to it. YouTube and Google are the two you need to pay attention to. We actually do SEO specifically for YouTube. So people who come to us for SEO services, we may do it for their website. Some of them want us to add on YouTube, and it can make a big difference. But it is important. And the best advice I have to people who are scared to be on video is just do it. The audience doesn't care that, okay, I have post-COVID hair that hasn't seen a hairdresser in, it was actually before we moved before COVID. So it's been like a year. So
I have post-COVID eyebrows and fingernails and
and nobody cares. They want to get to know the authentic you. Authenticity is more important than slick, professionally edited videos. So if you just start doing video, start with something small, answer a question, talk 2 to 5 minutes about one topic that can get you comfortable. How I got comfortable on video was I had a talk show on cable before video on computer was as big. YouTube was around then, but not quite like it is now. But I don't want to, I never wanted to be a talk show host. I'm not Oprah. But I did it. It was regional for our a large community area, multiple counties.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did it. And then you find out it's okay. We did live to tape, and sometimes one of my guests dropped all her stuff and we sat there picking it up. It's okay. So
Right.
you get more comfortable by doing. You will never get comfortable with it by avoiding it.
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, for some reason, they're just scared of just being seen, like literally just having their face be seen. And I feel like that's just unfortunate because I feel like your clientele or your audience, they really want to see you and know you. And that's kind of important in marketing, isn't it? Like building relationships with your audience.
It is. And some people, if they want to kind of dip their toe into the video water without personally being on screen, they can do something like the whiteboard or explainer type videos. You
Oh,
can
right,
start with
yeah.
something like that. Adobe stock, or Adobe, not stock, Spark has a great way where you can just pop in pictures and videos and then talk over it. So that can be ways to kind of get started with video without feeling like you have to be your face on camera, or do interviews like this where maybe your face is only going to show up half the time.
Right. Yeah, those are good points. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, you could just be your voice, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, another thing I noticed on your website, you talk a lot about creativity. And I love the concept of creativity. I love being creative. And I think with marketing, you have to be creative, coming up with concepts for some of the videos that you're going to make or events that you're going to plan. Or can you talk a little bit about the role creativity plays in marketing?
I think people get a little afraid of creativity as well, because maybe they've been led to believe that they aren't creative. I'm not a musician, I'm not an artist, whatever, not a poet.
Right.
And that's those traditionally jobs that we consider creative are not the only way to be creative. Being creative is simply about creating your life. And we all start in kindergarten coloring pictures, and we're told don't color outside the lines. That's because they're trying to actually develop our fine motor skills, not because they're trying to develop our artistic ability.
Right.
But because we hear when we're so young that art, which is traditionally thought of as creative, and we're doing it wrong, we tend to start telling ourselves that we're not a creative person. But we all are. We start that way, and then it's kind of schooled out of us to an extent. So the best thing you can do is first believe that you are creative. Start telling yourself that you're creative, and set aside time to just exist in the moment. No planning, no goals, no chores. Ideally, if you can get outside to do that, taking a walk, do it while you're taking a walk, and just have no end goal. Just enjoy being in the process, and you'll start unleashing some of that creativity. It doesn't have to be that you go paint pictures, which I happen to do, or go ballroom dance, which I happen to do.
I saw that. I thought that was so cool. I have to tell you, Vicky, about 10 years ago, I took ballroom dance lessons. I did West Coast swing.
Ooh, I love that one.
And the hustle. I felt very Saturday night feverish. Yeah, it was great. It was fun. Yeah.
But those aren't the only ways that you can be creative. Just simply tell yourself that you are. And it's not about being artistic in any of the artistic methods. It's just about creating your life. So we can all do that, and being in the moment will let you get there. And the other piece, the most important piece, we all have those inner critics. That inner critic that tells oh, you're coloring outside the lines.
Yeah.
And most people hear you'll hear them say, tell that inner critic to shut up. Tell it to be quiet. Don't listen to it. Just shut it down. And I disagree. I think you have to actually not listen to it, but question it. Why? Why is this voice telling me whatever it's telling me? And is that true? Maybe it was true when I was in kindergarten that I colored outside the lines. Is that true now? It may be okay. It may be great that I color outside the lines. And then when you answer why the first time, ask why again. Well, it's because when I was in kindergarten. Well, why? Why does that matter to me now? Well, I don't want people to see me color outside the lines. Why? Are these people you're ever going to see again? Or do they care that you color outside the lines? Keep asking why. And the more you question it, the quieter it will become.
Right. That's great advice, because usually, yeah, you do hear people say, ignore it, silence it, the critic. I try to silence it, but it keeps yapping. But if you question it, I think what you're really doing when you're questioning it is you're finding like the core belief.
Right.
Like why do I think this way? And then you go back, okay, this happened. What did I get from that situation to make me think that? And once you get down to the core belief, that's when you can really start to, so I feel like I'm not smart enough to be creative or whatever it is. Then you're more aware, and you can kind of start to just the awareness will start to heal it.
And after you've shut the inner critic down by questioning it, when it says it the next time, you're going to be like, well, we've already talked about how that's not valid, and you just move on. It helps a lot. Right.
Yeah. So this, you mentioned before authenticity and how important it is to be authentic with your audience. I think that was your point, and being authentic in your marketing, whatever it is you're doing, your writing or your video. You just want to be the authentic you, but not some type of persona. Well, I guess what I'm trying to question is there a place in marketing for persona where you're kind of, for example, if I'm a movie critic, do I need to put on the appearance of like a professional, I'm going to tell you all about this movie and be, very traditional? Or does authenticity have a place in that where I can still project some knowledge of movies, but be more myself? I think people it's kind of hard to balance the two sometimes.
It really, in cases like that, depends upon your overall brand. And I'm not talking your logo and your colors and all of that, but really your brand voice. So for example, my brand voice for our company is professional, because I want them to understand that they're working with a professional. But yet, if you read my blogs or watch the videos or my audio podcast, I just kind of talk to you relaxed, like I'm talking to you right now. That's how I kind of write my blog. So it's not always grammatically correct. I may put in a one-word sentence, which wouldn't be the correct way to do it if you're going to, college English classes or whatever. But that's how I choose to project that we're professional, we know what we're doing, but we're also friendly and we understand, and we're not going to BS you. Whereas one of my clients is in a medical field, and so she has a very structured, very polished and professional way of writing her articles and speaking on her videos, because that's what she needs to reflect in that instance. So it kind of depends upon your goal, your customer base or audience, and what you're wanting to achieve. But it doesn't ever have to be all super polished or all super authentic. It can be anywhere along the spectrum. And in the case of some people who are doing videos, or a movie critic, for example, they may want sort of that persona in that setting. But I also look back, we watch a lot of travel shows, especially since we can't travel right now. We love to travel, you know, Paris, but we've been watching a lot of them on YouTube. And even some of those, we've gone and looked at their website and kind of delved a little bit further into what they're doing. And one that we follow that has a huge following, they said how initially they'd edit all of the mistakes, you know, all of the in takeouts that you see at the end of the movie, all those kinds of things out of the video. They wanted it perfect. They didn't want to ever stumble over their words or trip as they're walking into the museum they're showing.
Right.
And once they started doing that, which wasn't right at the beginning, it was when they were a little bit into it and they started kind of more of a polished editing, their viewership went, oh.
Right, yeah.
And so they realized that in their case, they needed to bring back that authenticity. They needed to laugh with each other and, oops, I dropped my ice cream. Oh, look at it sitting there so sad on the sidewalk.
Right.
And as soon as they brought that back in, their viewership just skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm. So people do appreciate the true, well, they appreciate realness to an extent, right?
Realness, right. And if you need to be polished, if you're in a very, you know, doctor, lawyer, there's some fields that you're in that you may want to have that very polished appearance, and that's okay too. But even then, you can still be authentic to yourself in how you present yourself professionally. There's an authentic piece of that as well.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's really finding that balance between, because you don't want to be too far on the end of the spectrum either way, right? You got to find that balance. And,
you're not going to see me in my pajamas, or at least not from here up anyway. I can't tell you, maybe in the bottom, but we're not really seeing me from here up.
You know, I always
not that authentic.
I always like to have look decent on the bottom, because I think, what if something happened suddenly and I had to get up? You know, I just want to make sure I'm covered. So.
I have pants, yes. I have shorts on today. We're good.
Right. So I love this this idea of authenticity and making mistakes, like not being super polished, because what used to hang me up, still kind of hangs me up sometimes, is I don't want to start something. I have an idea. I don't want to really take action on it because I feel like I need to have all of my ducks lined up. Everything needs to be perfectly thought out, and then I can do it. But I've figured out that that's not probably the best way, because then I'll probably never start. So I just have to go for it and make mistakes, learn from them, and, you know, try it again. But I think people appreciate, like you said, you drop your ice cream or whatever. They like that because they see, okay, well, she makes mistakes too, right?
Yes. I have a quote that I've enjoyed for a long time by Salvador Dali, who said, "Have no fear of perfection because you'll never achieve it." So I take that to heart. And yes, please don't wait for everything to be perfect before you write your next article or launch your blog or start your business or start selling a product or a service, because all the planning you put into it to be perfect, and then next month, I mean, think about when COVID hit. I had plans for live in-person, hands-on website, SEO, social media training. I'd done them before. They go over very well, and COVID knocked all that out of the park. So you can plan and plan and plan, and then tomorrow something can happen and your plans have to change. So now, are you going to stop again and plan? Right. Sometimes you have to put it out and then do the process of continual improvement. Go back to it in software. When they're developing software, they do that kind of, you know, iterations, and they release an update that they've made something better or changed it. Right. Look at your own business and whatever content or widget or whatever you're producing, and put it out and get it out there, because it will still resonate with the right audience. And then you can go back and polish it up. Even my own blog articles, I reshare them continually. Bloggers need to do that as well. You don't just share it one time on social media and forget it.
Right.
I reshare continually, but I'll go back in and update it. Does it need a refresh in my content? Do I need to optimize it for SEO a little better? Is there new updated information? So maybe I thought it was perfect when I put it out, but it's not perfect anymore because the world has changed. So that I look at it as continual improvement. I'm going to take everything I've done, and then when I touch it the next time, can I improve it slightly over what it was before? And if you kind of approach it from that way, I don't have to be perfect at the beginning, because 6 months from now, it may not be perfect anymore. I'm going to put it out where it is today and then continually improve it so that 6 months from now, it's still relevant.
Right. Yeah. You know, I wrote a piece for my blog about it. People can think what they want to about Kanye. I know he's kind of gone off the rails lately, but he released an album about maybe that was 5 years ago. It was just digital, so it wasn't something you could purchase in a store on a CD. But he changed the title of the album after he released it. He changed the title at least 3 times, I think. And he even changed the lyrics after it had been out for like a month. Like, he just kept going and changing things. And I thought, wow, this is a whole new like realm where we can, like, nothing is set in stone. We can always go back and change something, improve it if we need to. And no one really raised hell over it. I mean, people
Think about
noticed
the
it,
people
but he wasn't.
who had the first version.
Right.
There's people now that are like, ooh, he's got the first version, and I'll
yeah.
sell you my digital copy. I don't know how that works, but
Right,
you know, it kind of becomes cool at some point that for him, not me. I'm not Kanye, but it becomes cool, the people who had the different versions, and you know, now somebody has something different, so it can be interesting.
Yeah, I love that. Just to kind of, I feel like I have a little freedom now. Like, yeah, as a writer, I can just let my creativity flow. And as you said, you can go back, revisit an article and update it. And, you know, there's always room to add or delete if you need to. Right?
Definitely.
This has been a wonderful conversation, Vicky. I'm so happy that you took the time to talk with me. And I'm wondering if you can tell us where we can find you.
You bet. Pretty much all the social media I'm on, but where you can find me most and get questions answered is my website, vickywu.marketing, and my name is spelled differently than you might think, VICKYWU, Vicky Wu Marketing, and my Facebook business page. If you go to Facebook and search Vicky Wu Marketing, you'll find Facebook business page, possibly the group as well. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, YouTube. All of my weekly blog posts are in all of those different formats. So you can, whichever one you like to consume, you'll find me there. YouTube, you can search my company name. SoundCloud, or any podcast platform that you use has the audio version of them. So I try to make sure that however my audience best likes to consume the marketing information, I put out a ton of tips. It'll be there for them. So, and if you just Google Vicky Wu Marketing, you can bet my website is SEO'd for that term.
I love it. I love it. Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice, particularly for the beginning blogger or entrepreneur who is nervous about kind of taking a chance and putting themselves out there as far as marketing?
Just do it. Really, just do it. One of the best things that can happen, and it seems so counterintuitive, the one client of mine that's in the medical field is doing a lot to establish on her website and social media her expertise, and she had someone troll on one of her posts a while back, and she was just beside herself. oh, I can't believe that, somebody said something bad and I'm so bad that I made somebody say something bad.
Right.
And me and a couple of the other people who are surrounding her in different marketing aspects said, you've got a troll. This is great. And she's like, what? I'm like, that means you've made it to a level that some people never achieve when people actually start trolling your posts. And Facebook doesn't care. They see it like engagement, and it'll boost it up and let more people see. So you have to be comfortable. There's always someone out there who may want to troll you. You can't control that. All you can control is what you put out. And if you get those kind of people, don't stop. Ignore them. Don't go back and look at the comments on that post or whatever you need to do to get past it. They'll always be out there, and you've got to just let them think what they think and just keep doing you. Your audience, your tribe will be there, and don't let the naysayers get you down.
I love that. Don't let the naysayers get you down. Thank you so much, Vicky.
I loved talking to Vicky, and I love her advice. Don't let the naysayers get you down. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you were encouraged to try something new in your marketing. If you don't like video, perhaps try some type of audio to add to your blog. Try to cultivate some creativity in your life so that it comes through in your writing, in your blog, in your marketing. Just be authentic when writing to your audience. Just great tips. Tune in next week. I'm going to talk to self-actualization engineer and the first person to earn a PhD in positive psychology, Dr. Oren Davis. We're going to talk about how we can help ourselves, how we can learn to be courageous, how we can learn to be the best versions of ourselves. So that will be next week here at Motivation to Write. I'm very excited. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.